You're listening to Parasearch Radio. News, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or their affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening. Welcome to Haunted Connections here on Parasearch Radio. I'm Neil, as always. We normally have a guest on this show, but unfortunately, Brian Holloway, who's going to be our planned guest tonight, is come down with a bug, and he can't talk, and he's coughing his guts up. So Brian needs to be rescheduled. So I don't have a co-host tonight. My guest is actually Jane tonight. Hi, Jane.
Hello.
So how are you tonight?
I'm very well, thank you. It does seem a bit strange being on the other side of the table.
I'm sure we're going to find out all about you tonight, Jane.
Oh dear.
We're going to find out all the nitty gritty.
Oh.
Okay then. So let's start then. If anyone doesn't know you, if people don't know who's listening, don't know what you do, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I like to think of myself as a spiritual medium, working out of the Haunted Antiques Paranormal Research Centre here in Hinckley. My journey has been a little bit unpredictable. It wasn't. I didn't think I would end up doing what I do, but I knew I needed to be on. I knew I needed to be on the right path, and it took me quite a while to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I do at the moment is we've just done just launched some meditation classes, a development circle, and we're doing private sit-ins, tarot readings and private sit-ins here at the centre. The centre has grown a lot in the last 18 months, so we're now able to offer that. And really, working with spirit is just one of the things that I just could not live without now. It has just become such a massive part of my life that I just couldn't live without it now.
Mm-hmm. So when did you how old were you when you first realised that you could talk to dead people? Basically.
Ever since I was a child, for as long as I can remember, I used to see people, I used to hear voices, I used to see shadows. And I did and I have told this story quite a few times. I used to have this thing that when I was little and I was in bed, this thing used to come out of the wardrobe and sit on the end of my bed and pinch my feet. And I used to be absolutely hysterical. I just couldn't sleep. I used to tell my parents about it, and they used to say that I'm making it up. And for a long time, I didn't know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And it did freak me out quite a lot as a young child. Looking back now and know what I know now, I do believe that thing was some sort of creature.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen creatures before the ones we had up here then?
Yes, but I didn't know. I really didn't know what they were, and I used to just think of them as monsters.
Mm-hmm.
I never used to think of demons. I just used to think of them as monsters.
Yeah.
And when people used to, I think like at school, we used to have like stories, when we used to do things like monsters under the bed and stuff like that. And that used to freak me out a bit because I used to actually think, well, they are real. And nobody sort of, would sort of believe you, but it's not the sort of thing that you would discuss at school.
So you didn't tell any of your schoolmates that you saw creatures, monsters?
Sometimes they would say, if I could see something, and I just used to probably stand there watching it, obviously people would see me sort of staring into space. And, quite a few times school friends would come up and say, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And you just, oh, nothing, it's all right, nothing. So I did used to, I suppose looking back, I did used to have a bit of a reputation for just sort of daydreaming.
Being a bit weird.
Well, yeah, probably being a bit weird.
Yeah.
But quite a few of the teachers used to say I was a bit of a daydreamer. But I wasn't actually daydreaming. I was watching things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I could tell. You can't really tell your teacher, can you?
So, what did your parents? Did you talk to your parents about it? Did they support you?
Well, my dad, he just used to say, well, what they were rubbish, sort of thing. My mum, she was. You see, my mum's very sensitive, and she used to be open to spirit and things. And she used to see, when I was about 16, she did actually take me to the Spiritualist Church in Leicester. And she used to be able to see people's guides and stuff. She could see white shadows next to people, see their spirit guides, see spirit around people. And I always thought that was quite fascinating. But one of the things that did stick with me when I went to this church in Leicester, one of the mediums came to me and he said that one of my spirit guides was actually one of my relatives, and he actually told me his name, Bobby Brown, and he told me that he died in an accident. And I didn't know who this person was, I was only 16. I couldn't think of any immediate family who that was.
Right.
But it wasn't until a few years ago when I was doing my family tree that I did actually find him on my family tree. And
right.
you could have knocked me over with a feather when I actually found him, his name, Robert Brown. He was a relative of my great grandma, and she said that they all called him Bobby. And yeah, it was a bit of one of those mind blown sort of moments.
So you think he's one of your guides?
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
So do you speak to him regularly?
I don't speak to him. I suppose I treat all my spirit guides with a lot of respect. I do ask them to come in and help whenever I need it. I know they're not there all the time. I do have different spirit guides for different things. Mm-hmm. I know that pardon?
I'm just coughing.
Oh, sorry.
No, just coughing.
So I know that I've got this old lady, I call her my old crone, and she looks after my knowledge and wisdom. I have a young Asian lady that looks after my love and compassion. I have an Indian warrior who looks after my strength and integrity. So there is a few that sort of come in and look after different things.
So do you think everyone has got different guides for different?
Yes.
For different needs.
Yes. Because it's a bit like how you are in life now. If you've got a medical problem, then you will go to a specialist doctor to look after that sort of problem, and that's how it is in the spirit world. It's my belief, it's based on my experience of what I've worked with. So. That's my opinion based on my experience.
Okay, so how did you get involved in this sort of ghost hunting lark?
Well, I had been doing it for a long time, and I've been aware of spirit for a very, very long time. And when I got married and had children, I could always feel spirit around me, but I used to have this, what I call it was like a big wooden door, and I used to shut them all behind the door because I didn't have the time, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the understanding to work with them all, because I had such a busy life. I had 4 children, very close together, and for a long time I kept shutting them out. And it's only when, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, when I found myself on my own, that Spirit almost compelled me to go to the spiritualist church.
Okay.
And to seek help and knowledge about working with Spirit.
Mm-hmm. So that's it.
That's how I got on. I knew they were all there. I just didn't know how to work with them properly, and I wanted to work with them properly. So I went along to the local spiritualist church. I signed up more or less straight away into the circle, and I sat in circle for a couple of years. And then my daughter, she asked me to go on a ghost hunt, a local one here in Hinckley, and that was the night that I met you. At the Hinckley Museum.
I remember it.
And that was probably, 6-7 years ago?
Must be, yeah.
So I continued to sit in circle. I was sitting in circle right up until Christmas last year. So I've been sitting in circle, 6-7 years. So, but alongside that, I was doing all the paranormal work as well. So for me, I feel I really did have a good training.
Yeah.
Because I had all the knowledge and help from the spiritualist church, but I also had a lot of free reign and the opportunity to work with Spirit as much as I could in the paranormal world.
So do you think it's important that mediums spend time at the spiritualist church and then go on to these paranormal investigations, or?
Me personally, I couldn't have done it any other way. That was my path. That was the path that had been chosen for me, I believe, by Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted, if you like, the best training I could get. And I was very patient with it. I went week in, week out, year in, year out. And it wasn't until I felt that I was ready. I think Spirit felt I was ready long before I felt I was ready. And I did platform work, I did sit-ins, I did spiritual healing. I really embraced as much as I could working with Spirit, and I do feel that has been rewarded.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how did you feel your very first investigation go? Can you remember a lot about it?
I remember, because I remember you being right at the back.
That's where I normally am. I like being at the back.
And I was with my daughter and her friend.
Yeah.
And they were sort of right at the front. And my daughter Rosie, she knows that I sort of I was sort of quite spiritual and I was doing church stuff. And she kept saying to me, "Go on, Mum, what are you thinking? Go on, Mum, what are you picking up?" And I really didn't want to say. I hadn't really got the confidence to sort of stand there and say to people, "Well, I'm picking up this and I'm picking up that." So I did sort of just discreetly tell her what I was picking up and what I was feeling and stuff. So, but it then sort of grew on from that, because a little while after that, when you started your venue group, you were looking for other people to join your team.
I was a guest as well that night.
Yeah. But it was later on when you started your venue group that you were looking for additional team members, and I came along and joined you.
You applied, didn't you?
And I came along really to be an investigator, just a member of the team, because I wanted to work more and more in the paranormal. But I think when you both found out that I sort of did the mediumship side, I sort of then took up I then sort of came along to the investigations as a medium rather than as sort of one of the team investigating. So I think because of that and the way I was sort of, if you like, really sort of pushed to the front, it did actually make me work. And I think because it made me work, it did actually develop a lot more I actually developed a lot more confidence and a lot more the ability really to just say what I thought and to sort of keep it real, really.
Yeah, because I remember those days we always used to split to two teams. The medium, co-owner, took a theme and I took a theme, and you were always in my team.
Yeah, and I was quite pleased with that. No pressure. Yeah, and that's what I think always being in your team did actually, I feel, make me a better medium, because you didn't push people, you didn't necessarily force them, but at the same time, it was, it felt a good environment to work in. Therefore, I could then work as well as I wanted to. You know, I could work to my full potential because I suppose of the environment that you created in your team.
Mm-hmm. So you were nice and relaxed.
Yeah.
And just did your thing.
Yeah, and we sort of. I think our blend of energies has always worked well together, and I think that's been one of the key things for me in helping me develop and progress, because of the. So I've never worked in any other paranormal team.
No.
I've only ever worked in the venue groups and the teams that you've worked in. So that's been good for me, because it means I've been allowed to develop and progress at my own pace, but at the same time it has been quite a fast-paced environment.
Things have changed a lot in the 5 or 6 years.
Yes, I would say so.
An awful lot.
If I think back to sort of how I was when I first joined your venue group to sort of what we're doing now, it's just so
phenomenal. So what's your favourite location you've been to?
Well, besides the Haunted Antiques, I think my favourite location has probably got to be Dudley Castle, because we did a special there on Halloween a couple of years ago, and the activity that we got was just absolutely phenomenal. The spirit energy around was so strong that it sent, absolute pins and needles all up my back, and that was quite a brand new sensation for me, and I was really put into a position where I really did have to work hard as a medium, because the medium at the time, he did actually get affected quite badly, and I had to help him, and there was quite a few other people being affected as well, so I really did have to sort of step up that night. And although it was a very busy night, it actually did prove to me that I could actually do it, and it gave me a lot of confidence. Yeah,
that's good. It is slightly different for us tonight, because we're not actually in the tea room at the centre. We're actually sitting on the landing, because we've got Haunted Live guys in tonight with their guests investigating. So we've left them in peace and quiet. So we're sitting in the landing.
Yeah.
And I'm actually sitting right outside the door to the offices below the centre, where we hear the doors banging and the padlock rattling and all sorts. So
yeah.
I'm quite nervous sitting in front of this door.
Oh, yeah. If you put your ear right up to it, you can often hear scratching.
No,
I've done it lots of times.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. So, have you been to any locations that you thought, oh my God, this is so rubbish, I'm never going to go back? Or
I think for me, it depends on the team that you're with as well, and also I used to find it difficult when we went to locations, if you like, and with the venue groups. If you had somebody that really didn't want to be there, or a complete skeptic that was absolutely shut down, they were adamant that they weren't going to get anything, that energy does go out, and it does sort of put the dampeners on things. And I think it used to be really quite hard working when people really didn't want to be there, or they really didn't want to get involved. I have been to a couple of locations where I thought, the hype was really quite a lot. I was disappointed with East Drive, because we did go there, and I did think there was quite I thought we were going to have, a fantastic night. And I know you didn't really get a lot of stuff. You felt that it was quite flat, but at the end of the night, we did actually I was working with one of the other girls in the team who was an empath, and I was starting to pick things up, and she was actually taking on all the emotions and feeling quite affected by the spirit that I was picking up. And it was such a good blend of energies that although I was disappointed with Eve's drive, that actual experience was really quite good. So I don't think there's many places where I would say that I was completely disappointed with, because I think for me it's slightly different than if I was just going as a guest, because in every venue I've been to, if there's spirit there, I can usually connect to them. And I have been to venues where I've connected with spirit and got a real good link, and then I've tried to tell people what you're getting, and people have just dismissed it and just not really listened, and so then you lose that link. So sometimes working with the living is more difficult than working with the dead.
Don't we know it? So have you come across a few guests like that in the venue days?
Yes, I think
quite a
so.
few guests really annoy you.
Because you get the girlfriend that's really excited and that wants to be there, and then she's brought a boyfriend and he's really not into it at all, or you get people that where their egos tend to spoil things, because it doesn't matter how much you want to work with them or how much you want to share the information that you're getting.
Yeah. If
they don't want to accept it, then it's all I can do is work with spirit, and I've always said this: I will only ever say what I feel, what I sense, what I'm experiencing, and sometimes it is up to other people to make up their own minds. I know clearly in my mind, and I can share the information, but then it's up to other people sometimes if they want to accept it or believe it.
Yeah, Kerry's put in the chat, I hate that when people dismiss what you're getting.
Yeah, because once you've given out the information and people acknowledge it, that strengthens the link. And I think this is one thing that sort of a lot of people don't necessarily understand, that once the link's been acknowledged, it strengthens the link, so you can then work more and more with that spirit to bring more and more evidence through.
So do you think, as the medium, do you think like you're being tested all the time, or don't
I
you
think
feel
some
that
people
way?
do like to try and test you, and I've just got to the stage now where if I feel that they're trying to test me, I can just quite easily say, well, no, thank you. I know what I believe in. I know what I experience, and I don't have to prove that to anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't have to be tested. I'm not working for them. I'm working for spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't want to accept what I'm telling them, or if they feel that I need to be tested in order to prove my ability to them, then that is something that they would have to live with, because I don't feel I should have to prove anything to anybody.
Okay, so how do you feel personally when you've got a spirit telling you things and no one takes it?
I can still, well, there's several things I can do. I can just, and I do, I have done this in the past. I just don't necessarily tell anything, but I just do keep that conversation going with the spirit, and I get as much information from that spirit as I can, and then I would probably later write it all down.
Mm-hmm.
So just because I've got that communication with spirit, if people don't want to necessarily share that or have that or listen, I don't have to share it with them, but I can still keep that link with spirit. Or if I've got that link and people definitely don't want to take it, if it's a private message for somebody, my family member, the chances are that if the family member doesn't take the message and they don't want to take it any further, that family member will just step back anyway.
Yeah, so okay then, is there any sort of location that you'd really like to go in the UK to start off with?
In the UK, I'd like to, I think there's a couple more venues. I mean, we are going to De Grey Street, aren't we?
We are.
in November.
Yes.
I'm quite looking forward to that because that does have quite a reputation around it, and I'd like to just go and see for myself what I pick up and, in my opinion, sort of how haunted it is.
Yeah.
And
so what are your expectations? Are you going with any expectations?
No, I don't have any expectations with any venue I go to, and I find the more open-minded I am, and the less expectations, the better the evidence is that. And I never ever do any research for any of the venues I go to.
Right. Okay. Because so that's different to me, because I'm going to 39 Grey Street with the expectations that we're basically not going to get anything, because I've heard so many reports about it that I'm not expecting to get anything. I'm basically going to debunk things.
Yeah.
A little bit like I did when I went last time I went to 30 East Drive.
Yeah.
With me and Matt went basically with the intentions that anything happens, we're going to really search hard for explanations for that happening.
Yeah.
And which is what we did at 30 East Drive. No, there was banging. There were a few knocks, but they were coming from the house, the adjoining wall to the house next door.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's people next door banging to me.
Yeah, I suppose I go with a slightly different view anyway, because I could go into a building, I can send my energy out into that building, and I can connect with spirit in there, and I can see them, and I can feel them, and I can hear them. Because I can connect with that energy and communicate with it, I'm not too worried about the bangs and the taps and the knocks and the things like that, because I want to see that energy. I want to be able to connect with it, see it, so I can then draw it, and that to me is good spirit communication. And if I was in there on my own and I didn't share it with anybody, that would be just the same for me as if I got that spirit and shared it. So, you know, the hits on the K2 and the electrical equipment or the bangs and the taps don't necessarily worry me, you know, or don't necessarily sort of, you know, make me feel that sort of like we've got that sort of spirit evidence. But for me, I connect with the spirits there and work with spirit direct. So the other stuff really is for everybody around who want to see the flashy lights and the bangs and the taps and things. And what I try to do is, if that's what people want, when I connect with that spirit, I then try to get that spirit to affect the K2s or affect any electrical equipment, or show themselves on the SLS, or do the bangs and the taps.
Mm-hmm. So do you think the spirits listen to you and they tell you the form of communications that they want to do? Like if they want to make bangs, do they tell you that's how I'm going to communicate? Or if they want to affect the K2, do they say, I want to affect that?
Well, when I've got a really good link, I do tend to ask them, how do you want to show yourself? How do you want to communicate with everybody else here? And I will generally get an answer. It's like our blue face video that was shown on the Paranormal Captured. I saw that man in the room, and I drew him, and then when we got to the back of the room, I asked him how he wanted to show himself, and I had the answer, get the flare. And I said to one of the girls, get the flare. She got the camera, and as soon as she switched it on, the face was in the camera.
Yeah.
And we've actually, that is probably one of the best bits of footage that we've got.
So that was actually shown on Paranormal Captured.
Yes.
In a very edited version.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yes.
So what was the full version of that? Because there's things leading up to that, wasn't there?
Yes, because well, as a team, we went into that room, and as soon as I was in that room, I could see this man walking around, and he didn't have a shirt on. He was bare-chested, and he had joggers on, and he had long boots, and he was walking around this room, and I saw him, and I actually sat down and I drew him. In the book, and We then went to the back of the table, the back of the room, where there was a big long table. And it's when you first took that voodoo doll, and I felt very uncomfortable around that voodoo doll. Matt picked up the voodoo doll and he sat down with it on his knee, but I could still feel this gentleman walking around, sort of around behind me. And I just said to him, can you show yourself? How do you want to communicate with us? Can you show us? And that's something when I got the get the flare. So one of the girls got the flare camera, switched it on, and I think we've got about 18 seconds of footage of this face that's in the camera. And understanding how the flare works, I mean, in the background, it does show the room as being red. And we know that was sort of about 11, 12 o'clock at night, and there was no heating on, and it was in February, and it was absolutely freezing, but that room still comes up as red. So the man's face in the thermal camera must have been absolutely freezing cold, because his face comes up as blue and dark blue, but the surrounding room comes up as red. But we know that room was absolutely freezing cold. So that's one of the things that sort of still intrigues me about that video.
That's quite cool. And where was that captured?
That was at the old house
in Colville.
In Colville.
Yeah. It's a cool location, that is.
Yeah.
Okay then. So obviously, if you've got any questions for Jane, please make a comment in the live chat, and I will ask her. So in the world then, where would you like to go? What location would you like to go in the world?
In the world, I do have a bit of a bucket list. I would like to go to the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo's paintings. And
that's a different one. I've not heard that one before.
Because I feel it was really his lifetime's work, and so much of his energy must have gone in there. I would love to just go to the Sistine Chapel and just see if I could feel the energy, or even just see Michelangelo doing his paintings.
Well, I've not heard anyone say that location before. I think
and obviously I'd like to go and see Zach Bagans.
You'd probably be struck down with lightning if you went in somewhere religious. Zach Bagans, okay then.
Obviously. I'd like to see Zach Bagans in Las Vegas.
You'd like to see Zach, or you'd like to see his haunted museum?
Well, probably both.
So
I'd love to go and get my hands on some of his bits and pieces in the museum.
Oh, look, I did wonder where that was going to go then. I was thinking, let's change the subject quick. Okay, so what draws you to his museum the most? I know it's a little bit like what we do here.
Well, I think because of the work we do here and some of the things that we've found out here, he's got so many of these reputedly, all these things with reputations of having these energies around them, and he's got so many sort of original things, like Marilyn Monroe's dress and things like that. Has he got Marilyn Monroe's dress?
I don't know.
Did I see somewhere he's got Marilyn Monroe's dress?
I don't know. I know Charles Manson.
Yeah, you see, I'm not sure about Charles, but things like Marilyn Monroe, I would love to sort of perhaps get my hands on some of her stuff, just to see if you could connect with that story and just see really what was behind, because there's so many conspiracy theories. I'd quite like to, through psychometry as such, like what we do here, and how we try to build up a picture of the item, I would love to get my hands on something like Marilyn Monroe stuff to see.
That was me.
To see if, you could identify a story behind there that was either that would be compatible with some of the conspiracy theories, or just to see if she just really did take her own life.
So, okay then, we'll carry on about Zach's place. Do you think it's as demonic, as evil as made out to be?
I am really hoping that it is, because I want to still meet a demon. We haven't met one yet. We've been to a lot of places that have been reputedly demonic. We've had a lot of items that people have said are demonic, and so far we haven't yet encountered what I would class as a demon.
No, but do you think demon is a bit of a label that's put on energy that people don't know what it is.
Yeah. See, we do work with creatures here, and when we first sort of started seeing the creatures, it was a bit of a mind-blowing sort of experience because we couldn't quite get our heads around it. And I think these creatures have always been here. They're around us all the time. And I think many people in medieval times and in all times throughout history have seen these creatures. I think people have worked with these creatures. I think they've been the inspiration of a lot of stories and folklores. But some of the ancient creatures really fascinate me. Mm-hmm. When I look at places like Angkor Wat and the Niger seven-headed snake there, they've got statues of these snakes, and I don't believe that snake ever lived, but it must have some sort of spiritual meaning. Somebody must have seen something like that. Mm. And there's many ancient sites around the world that have got many carvings and many pictures of what I would class as spiritual animals. Mm-hmm. And, there's sort of drawings and carvings, and I do believe that people have seen them before.
Mm. So in America, to me, every house seems to have a demon. You watch the TV shows, most were come from America.
Yeah.
And every time it's a demon entity. What do you think that's all about?
I think the culture in America, it has just been it's progressed so much that now they're a very religious country anyway, aren't they? Mm-hmm. They're very, very religious, and I think the opposite to that is there has got to be demons. Where people feel there's God, they also feel that there's a devil, and where there's a devil, there's demons. But I think also in America, I think America is probably a bit different. You would probably find the same sort of demons in South America, and I think where there's been very, very spiritual cultures that have been just annihilated, I think because of the spiritual land and the culture, the native Red Indians, where they very much were involved with spirituality, and I think sometimes it bites back. Mm. And where there's been a culture that's been absolutely wiped out, the same thing happened with the Incas. I think the forces of nature and the forces of the spirit world do bite back.
So a bit like karma.
Yes.
Karma's a bit of a bitch, she'll get you.
Yes. But, a lot of it, particularly in North America, a lot of other spiritual sites, the spiritual lands, they've just bulldozed it, built houses on it, so it doesn't surprise me that there perhaps is some real strong negative entities in some of these houses.
So you think there could well be a lot of negative energy there, but it's not demonic? No, or like the fallen angel? Or...
You see, sometimes I think you have to look at it from sort of a different point of view, as in if these people have always lived by spirit, and the only way that they could possibly fight back was through spirit, it might be that they have perhaps conjured up quite a few things from spells in the spirit world and everything else to sort of fight back.
Okay. Do you think you have to be careful what you wish for?
I think we do, yes, very much so. We've seen, particularly up here at the research centre, we've seen a lot of people ask for a lot of things, and then when it's happened, they perhaps change their mind that they don't really want it after all.
So, is there any place else other than Zach's? Because you only want to see Zach, really.
I'd love to go to Bram Stoker's castle.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good one in Romania. Yeah. I'd like to go to Dracula's castle. That'd be good.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be anything there?
Well, that's why you investigate, isn't it? You go to see if there is anything there, and because when you investigate in your own means, then you find your own evidence. So one team could go and probably get something, and you could go and get something completely different.
Okay, Kerry's made a comment about Exactly. Don't we all Zach's biceps? Believe it or not, Kerry, I don't. I don't ogle Zach at all.
I'd love to do an investigation with him.
Would you really?
Yeah, I would. I would.
I think I'd want to slap him. I think
I would just once. I think I would love to just. I mean, there's a few people that I would just love to investigate with, just to actually work with them people and just to be part of an investigation with them.
Yeah, I'd like to work. I'd like Aaron, or Aaron, from Ghost Adventures. I think he's a cool dude.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hilarious on an investigation, really.
Yeah.
If it weren't on camera.
Yeah.
I think it'd be hilarious. Carrie says, I'm sure he'd love that with the slapping. Yeah.
But wouldn't you like to be on a lone vigil with Zach?
No.
At the bottom of a basement somewhere?
No, because he's a bit of a coward, isn't he, really? He always sends Aaron in first.
But we've said for a long time, haven't we would like to meet a demon. So if we had the chance to go out there and you could sit in a basement with him where he thinks a demon is, that would be that would be a great live feed.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because
you want to see that demon. We're looking for the demons, aren't we? And it's the same with the poltergeist. How many times have we been to places where people have said there's poltergeist, and when we've got there, there's been no evidence of a poltergeist at all.
Yeah, look at that place in Nottingham.
Yeah,
we were invited to get rid of this potentially demonic entity in the cellar. It wasn't, was it?
No, it was something completely different though. It was. It does fascinate me how different the energies are and how many different ways that they can sort of be conjured up and set free, and a lot of time it's not their own fault, really. It's just people.
Okay, then do you find on investigations, do you find that people come expecting Most Haunted or Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures or any other TV shows? Do you think the general public, because we're in England, let's face it, Most Haunted, do you think people come expecting it to be like Most Haunted?
Yeah, I mean, I think previously on an investigation, I think I did tell somebody off for screaming because they thought they'd been sort of attacked and they started screaming, and I did sort of tell them off a little bit because there's no need to scream.
I can't remember that one.
Because it's that same thing, isn't it? It's
scream's infectious.
If you ring somebody up and you say, "Can you come over to my house? I want to see you." So that person comes over to your house, knocks on your door, you open the door and start screaming blue murder in their face, and then you slam the door in their face. It's that same concept.
Yeah.
If you're inviting spirit in and you want spirit to come and work with you, as soon as they turn up, you don't start screaming and going hysterical. And I mean, that's sort of how I explained it to her. I mean, she was all right about it, but I think sometimes people don't quite understand sometimes what they let themselves in for. So although I sort of told her off a little bit, I did explain why and everything else. And she was all right with it, but
I didn't know. I'd not heard that one before. Okay then. Well, what do you think of people? Or what do you think of if you go on YouTube? There's all these possessions, demonic possessions.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, or how?
Well, there's two things really, isn't it? Some people just do it purely for entertainment, to boost their viewers, to boost. The internet is a strange thing because you can sort of sell anything really, possessions and overshadowing and all strange sort of things that could be set up, and some people will believe it, some people won't. So people will do it for entertainment, but sometimes for me, if it looks sort of fairly genuine for me, I do keep an open mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I would keep an open mind until I actually went there myself and experienced it. So if somebody's saying that they've been to, just say, 30 East Drive, and they went and they got possessed and it was, a horrendous experience and this, that and the other, well, that's okay. That may be their experience. But I would want to go to East Drive myself and just see for myself and make up my own mind about that location.
Mm-hmm.
And even in people's private houses, when you've seen videos of people sitting there on their computers and things start moving behind them and that sort of thing, I would want to go to their house and see and find out what's there.
Mm. So what about the videos on YouTube I've seen where some people they claim to be possessed by a demon and the body's all twisted and all this and they're talking in a foreign language? What's your take on that?
I think until I see it myself, I am a bit sort of sceptical.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a genuine incident, but I am very much of the mind that I need to see it myself. I need to experience it myself in order to sort of believe that.
Yeah. So of course you still want to come across a poltergeist, don't you?
Yeah. It'd be quite. I mean, what we've always said, haven't we? If we come across a poltergeist and it picks you up and it drags you around the ceiling, then we still need to keep the camera running.
Yeah,
and I think that
definitely
would be a fantastic live feed if we actually caught you being dragged around the ceiling.
Yeah, like it was still filmed when I got dropped on the stairs once. Yeah, definitely. So is there? Where do you want to investigate in this country?
Where do I want to investigate? I like the small places, and I do like. In fact, I'm pretty open to investigate in most places, but I do enjoy places where I've not been before because it's that bit of a challenge. And I would go in with an open mind. Like I say, I won't do any research, but I do like to go to places where I've not been before because I do like that bit of a challenge where I can see for myself what's in the building.
Yeah. That's same with me. I think. I always fancy going to the Winchester Mansion.
Yeah, see, I have been there. Oh no, what Winchester?
No, that's in America. I don't think you've been to. Well, I'm not.
Oh, we're talking Woodchester.
Winchester.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Woodchester.
Woodchester. Yeah. How did you find Woodchester?
I thought it was quite amazing actually because when we went to Woodchester Mansion, we only went as a team, and it was a venue. Team.
Yeah, we had guests.
Yeah, and I remember sitting at the gate waiting for the man to come in and let us in. And I think we were about 4 cars. I was in my own car, and it was absolutely chucking down the rain. And because it was belting down the rain so much, we all just sat in our own cars, but we were all texting, weren't we? Sending each other messages. And I remember sitting in my car, and I see the coach and horses drive past me. And I put it in the chat saying, I've just seen this man with the coach and horses and everything drive past and start going down the drive. And it was later on that when we were in Woodchester Mansion, upstairs, I think on the 3rd floor, I was asking Spirit to just sort of show me something. Can they do something for me? And I was told to go to the end of the corridor. And where I went to the end of the corridor, and on the left-hand side of the wall, there is pictures. And I could actually see on the picture the coach and horses that I'd seen before we got into the building. So that was a really good experience for me.
So that was like a residual energy of this coach and horses.
Yeah, but they did actually take me to the picture and show me the picture.
That's good. So have you ever been anywhere where you've really been terrified?
I think when we first went to Guy's Cliff, that did terrify me a little bit on the first night because I think people were sort of. I hadn't been there before and I hadn't been with the team very long, and people were saying, oh, it's the Masonic Hall and there's all sorts of things going on and blah, blah, blah. So I actually sort of let people get inside my head before I'd even got there. I don't do that now. So it was, I was a bit scared going there, but I think that was in the early days. Whereas now I just go with completely open mind. I don't necessarily, because when you listen to other people's stories and you listen to a hype, you put yourself in a frame of mind, which I think does a bit more damage than good, because you're not going with an open mind.
Okay, got a question from Tammy from California, one of our regular viewers. Tammy, hi Tammy. Has anything ever tried to attach and go home with you? That's a good question.
No, because I wouldn't let it. I think because I sat in circle for quite a while before I started the paranormal stuff, I was always already very aware of protection and having that strength of mind where I wouldn't let them in. But I have recently, when I've asked Spirit how to work with some of these things that we've come across, I have actually attached things to myself.
I was just going to say that. You did it intentionally.
I have actually attached things to myself intentionally to actually solve problems or, and worked with it that way. So, yeah, I have.
So have you ever been overshadowed?
In the early days, I did feel, when we first started to go to some of these stronger locations, I did feel like Spirit wanted to overshadow me. But like I said before, just when it sort of comes to the crunch, you can call on your spirit guides and people around you to help, and spirit-wise, and you can look after yourself.
So what sort of protection? Do you do protection before you go to a location?
No.
For example, we're up here loads of times every week. Do you do protection before you come up here?
No, because my strongest protection for me is my positive mental state and my confidence in working with spirit.
Now, some people, quite a lot of teams do full-blown protection before they go anywhere.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've seen it here, haven't we, when people have done a lot of protection, and sometimes I think you can sort of overprotect, and it can limit the activity that you get in an investigation. Okay. I do think it's wise sometimes when people, or for most people who probably aren't used to working with spirit, I do think it's wise to actually do some form of protection after the event, but not in the event.
Okay. Another question from Tammy. Do you ever give offerings to spirit or your spirit guides?
Do I often
give them offerings?
I do.
What, like a jam sandwich or
cake? No, I do. I very often sit and I meditate and I give a lot of thanks and I give a lot of gratitude, and I'm very respectful of the spirit world. I will, and generally when I come up here, every time I start working with spirit, I do say a prayer, and the prayer being the intent to work with spirit.
Okay.
And when we've finished, I always say a prayer to say thank you for the communication.
So as you are, Jane, you are fully aware that we don't do any protection as a team.
Yeah.
So do you feel the onus is on you to keep your eye on hers as well?
Yes, I do feel if you're a medium and you're part of a team and you are working in an environment that you know has got a lot of spirit, if you've got people coming to your venue or you've got people who you are looking after as guests, then you do have a responsibility to make sure that all your guests are safe and happy and that they go home feeling like they've had a positive experience rather than going home feeling like feeling like, that they've had something attached to them, or that they're feeling that it's been a negative experience. Because a lot of times when people have been here doing investigations, we always offer to do a bit of a cleansing on people or whatever if they want it, so they go home with peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. And you're always on call, aren't you?
Yeah, and I am always on call. I've done that a few times.
Yeah, I remember one especially. They're coming back in December. Tammy says, I love that you do. I do as well. At the offerings. Yeah. So do you find that, for example, like when we went to Nottingham, I don't have protection.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are?
There's knocking on.
There's flipping knocking on the door. Do you feel like the onus, like I said, the onus is on you to make sure I'm safe?
Yes. That's scratching.
Yeah, scratching on the door.
Yes, I do, because if we're going to push the boundaries like we do, then I feel our team is really good anyway, because all our energies blend well together, and I feel that I've been working with you long enough. I understand your energy. Our energies work well together, but also along with working with your energy, I also watch your body language and everything else. So as soon as, you have been affected quite badly in some places, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
And we can now sort of understand and see the signs that little bit earlier, so that we can now give you warnings and give you choices as to how far you want to proceed.
Yeah, that's good. So, a bit more responsibility for you then.
Yeah.
Because we're a bit gung-ho. Tammy says, I lost you. We've only got a couple of minutes to go. So, final question, Jane. What sort of ambitions you got in the field?
To be honest, I haven't really thought of it as being an ambition. I haven't really thought about it, to be honest, because I enjoy working at the Haunted Antiques so much that I only see as, or I want to be able to push the boundaries as far as we can within the paranormal. And because you've got this base here, we are able to do so many more experiments and to work with spirit in ways that we just haven't done before.
Yeah.
And it would sort of be my ambition, if you like, to sort of get evidence where we can actually find some definitive evidence to prove to people that spirit does really exist.
Okay. So we're.
I think that's what my ambition would be.
Okay.
To actually obtain that sort of evidence.
So thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed the chat with Jane. Tammy says, what has happened to you, Neil? I don't know what you mean, Tammy. I'm okay. I feel a bit ropey at the minute, health-wise, but I'm okay.
Especially when you've been perhaps taken over.
Oh, yeah. Message me later, Tammy. I'll tell you all about it. It's quite funny. Stay tuned to Parasearch Radio. There's another fantastic show coming off straight after us. So we're going to say thanks for listening. Back to normal next week. We'll have a guest on, and Jane will co-host. So it's not quizzing Jane. We're going to quiz somebody else.
Yeah. So good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next Tuesday. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.